Yes, ma'am, you can start now.
Okay. So, hello everyone, a very, very warm, festive afternoon. First of all, a very, very happy Onam to a lot of you. Eid Mubarak to few of you, and season's greetings to us here in India and abroad. As you can see, we have Dr. Julia Mother with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Julia, for giving us this time for today. Welcome to the Vibe Live, a Hexalog.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation. It's always a big pleasure to meet you, ladies. And so I'm really happy to join here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as you all know, my dear audience, the VIBE that stands for Women Inspire, Build, and Enhance is a platform dedicated to fostering women's excellence. It brings together women doctors from diverse specialties to share knowledge, leadership experiences, and personal journeys that inspire both growth and collaboration. There are four fundamental pillars that form the VIBE: physical well being, mental health, financial wisdom, and professional excellence. Through its various initiatives, the VIBE strives to build a community of women professionals which uplift one another and redefine the landscape of healthcare leadership. I'm Dr. Ritu Johri, consultant diabetologist and metabolic expert practicing in western suburbs of Mumbai with a unique diverse background, decade and a half spent in pharma industry, working behind the scenes of drug development, marketing, and now into clinical practice for last half a decade, treating diabetes, thyroid, and obesity. Besides clinical practice, I love contributing to research and medical writing as co-founder of RFECT. But what brings me utmost pleasure in sharing is introduction of this exclusive platform with these vibrant women around me, the Vibe, as founder of one of its kind platform that targets fostering women excellence. I'm blessed to be complemented by my husband, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and our family actually feels complete with a teen son and a toddler daughter. With that, let me introduce you to the rest of our team Vibe. Dr. Lotika, over to you for your introduction.
Hello, good afternoon to everybody, and wishing you happy Onam and happy Eid to all our viewers. And welcome to Dr. Julia, who's joining us today all the way from Graz in Austria. So I am Dr. Lotika Purohit, a diabetologist and lifestyle medicine physician practicing in Kolaba, Mumbai since the last 3 decades or so. I am part of the Research Society for the Study of Diabetology in India as a part of the National Executive, as well as I'm a visiting faculty at the JJ Group of Hospitals, which is Mumbai's largest government hospital for diabetes. They're a government hospital and I'm there for diabetes and obesity. Besides that, we have a company called Sugar Doctor, which is partnered by my husband, Dr. Suresh Purohit, who's also a diabetologist. And I'm a mother to an artist and an entrepreneur. I also enjoy these lovely conversations that we have with leaders like Dr. Julia, and sharing experiences and learning and getting inspired from their stories and challenges that they have overcome. So looking forward to a wonderful afternoon with you, Julia. I hand over to now to Dr. Ruqayya Sheikh for her introduction.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning to you and good afternoon to all of us here. And greetings to everyone here and all the audience who's joined us today. I'm Dr. Ruqayya Surya Sheikh, and I'm a diabetes, thyroid, and an obesity specialist. I practice in Mulund, which is in Mumbai, for last 15 years. What I love most about medicine is that it's not just that we are treating numbers, it's about understanding the person and it's being a part of their journey. Beyond the clinic, I'm wife to a medical oncologist and a proud mother of 2 daughters. And I'm someone who believes in practicing what I preach. I love workout. I love to play carom. I like to travel. And this good company and the meaningful conversations that we have every Wednesday. Recently, I've also discovered the joy of painting, which brings little color and calm to my busy days. I'm delighted to be here today, and I look forward to learn from you, to share with you, and to grow with each one of you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Professor Julia. Over to you, Dr. Kavita, for your introduction.
Thanks, Dr. Ruqayya. Good morning, ma'am.
And good afternoon to everyone. Namaskar. I'm Dr. Kavita Rane. I have been a diabetes and obesity expert at Chembur in Mumbai for the past 15 plus years and the director of operations at Rane Hospital. I'm also a consultant at Apollo Spectra in Deonar. Apart from diabetes and obesity, I love abstract art. I have had a photography exhibition at Jahangir Art Gallery in 2019 and Simrose Art Gallery. So I love to travel. I love EDM music. I love to play golf. And I love these Wednesday Vibe lives that we have with staff speakers such as you. Over to Dr. Pranjali. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kavita. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Dr. Pranjali Shah, Director and Chief Diabetologist at APT Diabetes Clinic. I also handle internal operations at iHeal Complete Vision Care, which is led by my husband. He's a cornea transplant surgeon. I help young diabetics to live longer and stronger. But if you don't find me in my clinic on weekends, you will see me hiking, doing farming, uh, hiking with my boys, and spending time in animal shelters. Being a formal state level badminton player, I love to spend time on the court as well. And on these Wednesdays is our special Wednesdays for us, where we love and to connect and love from learning from you leaders like you, ma'am. Thank you so much, and over to you, Dr. Ritu.
Thank you so much, girls. So, as you all can see, today we're talking about technology in diabetes care. And when we talk from finger pricks to continuous glucose, from the insulin injections to automated delivery systems, how far can actually technology take diabetes care? Well, here is the persona who's been instrumental in leading this vertical. And this episode is going to be nothing less than sheer inspiration. Meet the woman shaping the future of diabetes care, Professor Julia Mather, Professor of Diabetes Technology at the Medical University of Graz, Austria, and an internationally recognized expert in CGM, insulin pumps, automated insulin delivery systems, as well as digital diabetes care. With over 190 plus peer reviewed publications and having held leadership roles within esteemed organizations like the EASD, she combines clinical expertise, research, and innovation to rethink how diabetes can be managed better, how patients can be given better lives. A scientist, an innovator, a global leader, and more so, a woman helping build the next generation of diabetes care. Welcome, Professor Dr. Julia Madher, to the Vibe Live, a Hexalog. And a quick question to you. How did you feel when you were invited for this particular platform?
So I was very excited because I've met you just like last month down in Kerala, and it was such an amazing event. And then you came up with your events that you host every month, and I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. And then when you invited me, I felt really honored because it's such an inspiring group that you bring together, and I think that's really something that you can be very proud of, especially as you do it in the after hours, I would say, in that sense. And my country, it's sometimes really hard to motivate a group of people to work after 4 o'clock. So congrats on that.
True, and it's like they all said that it is actually a platform that we all look ahead to. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation. So without further ado, Dr. Rukia, over to you for the first segment.
Thank you, Ritu. And ma'am, my segment is about the making of a mind that wouldn't stop asking why. So today we all know Professor Julia Mather as a global leader in diabetes technology. But before the CGMs came, the algorithms, the publications, the pumps, and there was a simple young woman who chose medicine. So you have extensively worked with the CGMs, and you say that the AGP, which is the ambulatory glucose profile that we do, that is not just a collection of glucose numbers, and it's the story of the patterns, the trends, the variability, and the turning points. So this segment will focus on your AGP, okay, about your patterns, your trends, and what have been the turning points in your journey. So before medicine and research and technology became a part of your world, there was a family and an environment that you grew up in. So, what values, experiences, or people from those early years do you recognize today who have shaped the woman you have become?
That's of course a very good question, and I really liked it when you bring up this topic, because it's often that we forget kind of who we owe what we became. So, for example, there are several very important people in my life. So, of course, my parents, for example, and they never kind of had given me the feeling that you cannot achieve whatever you want to achieve. So it's like to be living in a very open society, in a very open area. There is more achieved that I think made me achieve what I want to become. Because if you imagine you had like a family saying, oh, you can't study, you can't go for training, you can't become a doctor, that would have potentially stopped the career. And of course, even if universities are free in Austria, so you don't need to pay any tuition fees, still it's cheaper if your kid goes on to a profession rather than going for 6 or 7 years of study, where they might need some substitution in terms of funding from the parents. So they never gave me any of those boundaries, which is very was very encouraging at that point in time. And maybe another person that helped me to shape and develop who I was my elementary school teacher, because what she kind of brought to all of us was that we should be independent. So I've seen that the numbers of kids requiring tuition, including high tuition fees, is now really increasing in my country. And nearly 30% of kids really get private tuition after school, which is, of course, costly, and not everyone can or could afford. But what she trained us was, okay, you need to work hard, you need to work on your own, you should not rely on someone else teaching you. And both of my parents were working, which at that time was maybe not that usual. So my dad was a pharmacist, and my mom, she worked as a medical assistant at a doctor's office. And she kind of the teacher, she brought to us, okay, you can learn on yourself, you don't need your parents. And so usually my mom still kind of arranged the lunches, and then I went to study on my own because she left for work, and then I was like playing around with the kids of the area, and I did not have anyone kind of surveying what I was doing. And so I think that's also a lot of kind of what was contributing from my early days teacher.
Oh, yeah. Lovely. We don't realize, but when parents give you that independence to figure out what you want to do and, be okay with your mistakes and, you learn through the journey, I guess, that makes you stronger to take decisions when you grow up further. So, oh, that's really
Absolutely,
nice.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because you've taken those multiple small decisions while you're growing up. So then, when the bigger decisions come, you're like, okay, I can do this. Lovely.
Exactly. And I mean, that was already at the age of like, let's say 7 to 10, where we were really like developing in a way that I felt quite positive. And if I now look into what happens around me, where you have a lot of surveillance on your kids, I'm not so sure if that helps their own development or helps to develop their minds. I mean, that's maybe a European view, where we have too much like helicopter parents. But I think it's also good to let the kids develop on their own.
Yeah, I don't think so. Indian parents are far behind. We also have schools which give you CCTV recordings. Like, the parent also has an app on while the child is in the classroom. So they know exactly what their kids are doing. So we have extremes everywhere. I don't think so. It's just restricted to Europe over there. So, ma'am, I think having a pharmacist parent and, a medical assistant, so you were surrounded by a lot of medical at home, and probably, that's what shaped you towards your journey being into this field.
Probably yes, but interestingly, and I was just like thinking about kind of what my role models were. And when I was younger, I wanted to actually, and you mentioned the animal welfare and care of animals, I wanted to become a caretaker of animals. So that was kind of my first wish. Then I wanted to become teacher. So I was always like teaching my little stuffed animals. So I was like taking those little brochures that you get from the shops with the price lists, and like everyone got the same, and they had to kind of do some maths and whatever. That was during my early career at elementary school. And at a later point, so I think that was in the beginning of high school already, I thought, no, I want to become a veterinarian.
Okay.
But the problem is in my country, it's a small country and we have only 2 universities that educate or where you can study for veterinary medicine. And that was in Vienna and in Innsbruck. And because I had very close friends and was very close to, or am still very close to my family, I didn't want to, or could not imagine to leave Graz actually. So I was like, okay, so I definitely don't want to live either in Innsbruck nor in Vienna, even if both are beautiful cities. So I was like, okay, so what can I study which is close to animal medicine? And so that's how I ended up in human medicine back home in Graz.
Oh, lovely. So from animal medicine, you have one shifted to human. Generally, it's the other way.
Exactly. And yeah, so I have to say also, and that's maybe also what helped me to go down that pathway. I always had very high marks in school, but at that time when I was studying or entering for studies, that was not a requirement. So we were, and I think that was a very good part of the Austrian education system. It was open for everyone. So if you passed your high school exams, irrespective of the grade, so you could have like top marks, or you could be just like having passed, you could go for whatever subject you chose. And then maybe one of the downsides, and I'm a big and strong supporter of EU, but one of the downsides that we have is that you have as a country to give the same rights to every citizen across the European Union. And we are a small country. And of course, we share a language with Germany and Switzerland. But Switzerland is outside EU. But that would mean that we need to admit at the same prerequisite German students for free to our high schools. And they are like the 10th-fold of our population. And that, of course, brought us to some boundaries. And with that, they started to introduce entry exams. And they're quite harsh. So I'm not sure if I had managed to enter med school with those exams without like losing maybe 1 or 2 years in preparation. And I feel really sorry for those kids now, because they have to undergo all those very harsh tests now, just because they were born at a later point in time. Yeah, so I think I was also a bit lucky in that sense, I have to say.
Yes. Okay. Ma'am, you've been a person who's very curious right from the beginning. Okay. So curiosity is often, something that you've always, your mind seems to have always asked, why do we do it this way? And can we do it differently? So was there a particular patient, a person, a mentor, or a moment in your life that ignited that instinct to question and explore?
Initially, and maybe that is also a bit of a sad story. My mom, she used to have a brother who was a little bit older, and he had the diagnosis of encephalitis when he was a young boy. So contracted encephalitis, and with that he was like he was self-sustained. He could work, but could only do, let's say, low-level jobs in contrast to the rest of the family. And when my grandma died, my mom took over kind of at least to check in on him once a week, once every 2 weeks, because he's living like 1 hour, or used to live 1 hour away. And then one day there was really the critical situation. He has had diabetes always since I've known him, but he was saying, yeah, everything is okay. My doctor checked on me, it's all right. And then my mom said, but like, what's kind of that soaked area on the floor? What happened here? Oh yeah, that's from my foot. So obviously he really had like a very bad ulcer that was actually bleeding. And then she kind of brought him to the hospital. And in the end, it was really very advanced ulcer, including a requirement of amputation because of osteomyelitis. Not because our system would not have avoided that, but just simply because he did not seek appropriate help. And that kind of really wanted me to change perspective and give better understanding for people living with diabetes, how we can really make them understand what we can change in terms of diabetes care if we simply focus on better care.
Lovely. So this was personal.
Yeah. So that was a very personal story, and
Yeah.
that also maybe have brought me into the area and field of diabetes, because I was very unsure about the direction. So it's not like I always wanted to become the professor. Also in the career of medicine, in the beginning, I wanted to become pediatrician. And then, like as all of us do, we had to go through all the rotations. And first of all, it was surgery, and I had to hold that kind of heart in the OR when they were doing some valve replacement. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't stand that. It's really like long surgery times. I felt like I could not ever do like 5 hours in an OR. And also like that communication tone was very rude. So I was like, okay, so that's not my kind of favorite approach to medicine. I was okay, surgery is out. And then I really transgressed through different areas of medicine, and it was more or less everything was like an exclusion criterion. So that's not mine, that's not mine. And in the end, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm probably never ever finding any area of medicine that I could be interested in. And then we were pediatrics, and I was like, oh yeah, pediatrics, that's mine. And then like the kids were really nice, but the parents were so annoying. And I was like, oh my goodness, you're never only dealing with the kids, but you are dealing with the whole family. You are dealing with all the parents. So that's for sure not mine. Then it was then because you always look for your role models like that. And one of my personal role models was also my pediatrician, because he always believed like when I had some symptoms that they were not out of psychological reasons, but true symptoms, right? And so one day, for example, I had issues in swallowing, and they said, oh yeah, that's just because you're now stressed because you go to med school and you are stressed out, and that's some psychological aspect. And really it did not, and I've never been such a person, and it did not go away for like 4 weeks. And then he really insisted in doing an endoscopy, and actually found out that it was esophagitis caused by sore, yeah, and so that was kind of then treated with antimycotics and sorted out. But so like he was always a role model for me. But I was like, okay, so I really look up to you, but I could not really manage your job. That would be too difficult for me. Then second role model was my GNOB doctor, and she was like also an amazing woman, really explaining a lot to you, and so that was always awesome. I was like, okay, so GNOB, that's mine. And sadly to say, when I've seen kind of a delivery C-section, I was like, oh my goodness, that looks like Alien, the birth. And I was like, oh my goodness, no, I could never, ever, ever go for that for the rest of my life. And so finally, unfortunately, I was introduced to my still at nowadays time boss because of my dad, because he was working in the hospital pharmacy. And he was then kind of the shining light in the field of diabetes. And he said, oh yeah, maybe she wants to do her thesis with me. And I was like, oh, okay, so let's look out for diabetes. And that's how I ended up in the field of diabetes. And still I'm there together with my boss working in that field. So he's going to retire in maybe 2 years' time. But really, he's also one of those people who really helped me to shape my career at the later stage, of course, like not that early as we discussed before. But yeah, so that's maybe another role model in that field.
So, your life has been just an AGP. It has its troughs and peaks, and it's completely, like an AGP chart that we are seeing at. And so if you were to read it, and so what would we discover about these peaks, the dips, and the moments that change your trajectory living today? Was it meeting this doctor who was the diabetologist, or?
Yeah, I think so. So there are really like some peaks and some kind of really very big lows. So for example, as I told you, I was really very, very good student at high school and could not have like any issues with any of the teachers. But at my time, we still had some misogynist professors. Really, they might still exist in some areas, but those were really bad at my time, especially in the preclinical subjects. So for example, anatomy, and physics, for example. And so I ended up with one in one of those classes, and like they were not even professors at that time, but they were kind of the tutors. And that person was so mean that I really failed 3 times in an exam where I was actually prepared. And then I complained with his boss and said, like, I mean, come on, I really know what I was talking about. It was just like that he was always asking a question that you thought you answered wrong. Then you said another answer, and then he said, oh, no, that's wrong. And so that was really mean. And then like that was one of the things where I thought, like, maybe I'm really going to fail medicine. So that was quite early in the career. Then when I was finished with the studies, I was like, okay, so at that time we really, really had an issue in finding employment as a doctor. So you had to wait maybe 2 to 3 years, whereas nowadays you have like the offer of 10 different jobs. So that was maybe another thing where I was like, okay, so maybe now I need to go to southern Germany in an area that's maybe not my favorite areas, just to start working in the field of medicine, away from family, away from friends, commuting 6-7 hours per direction once a week to come back and forth. And yeah, so unfortunately, it worked out that I could find an employment in the area where I was doing my thesis. So that's how I ended up still in this field. I had to go through nuclear medicine in the beginning because that was kind of the only job offer they had in that department. And at that time, we had endocrinology and nuclear medicine as a combination. So I started off in that field, not really, how I say that, communicative job, because you always, like a radiologist, were just interpreting data you might have to inject that radioactive material, but you did not communicate a lot. So I also noticed I like the contact with people. And so those were maybe the two turning points in my career, like where you really had to dive through and then find the right pathway.
Lovely. Thank you, Dr. Julia, for opening up and sharing such personal journeys about you to each one of us. It's been so wonderful to hear you right from your early days to getting up to your residency and to the job that you're in. It was so nice speaking to you. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Kavita, for your segment.
Thanks, Dr. Rokia. Good afternoon from India, but good morning to you, ma'am. Listening to your story was really heartwarming, as in how I believe you're an empathic person where you connect with the vibe of the person right in front of you. So, which is why you could connect through whoever you've met and learned. And I believe that your choice is also based on that. So, this next segment we have is when diabetes met technology. So, diabetes management has moved from occasional glucose measurements to a world of continuous data, connected devices, algorithms, and automated insulin delivery. Professor Madhav, you have been an active part of this iconic transformation. So, what was the moment when you realized technology could fundamentally change diabetes care?
So that's also a very good question, because actually when I started in that field, that was like back in 2004, 2005, beginning of 2005 actually, one of my first studies was to test CGMs. And like my professor at that time said, oh yeah, that's a very niche product and that's never going to become something relevant. So it's just like something where we will see what you can do, but you can kind of start researching there because no one is really interested in that. And so my first trial compared at that time two early generations of our CGM, and like you never knew if the sensor would start to work or would not start to work, or if you just like had implanted something where in the end you did not get a trace out of it. And so, yeah, so, but then when you really had the traces, that was really awesome because it's, oh, wow. So like, instead of those spot measurements that we normally have, now we really have a trace around us. And so that already back then, I thought like, okay, that's really good. Problem was, of course, it was not available. It was just for research purposes. But I had the belief that this could really transform care. So I was really happy when those sensors in the end were really introduced into the market. And in my country, also a lot of people had to fight for them. So it was mainly people suing health insurances that, okay, they are now on the market and you are not putting us on them. So if you don't do that, we will sue you. Austria is normally not a country compared to the US where people really sue a lot, but really people really stood up for themselves to improve their care, and that really impressed me at that time.
Wow, that is an amazing story, ma'am. Really inspirational. And so we have moved from what is my glucose now to where is my glucose going? So how transformative has this shift been globally for persons living with diabetes and doctors treating diabetes?
Yeah, so I think that's still a transformation that we are going through for parts of us. So it's not that all of us fully understand what kind of the benefits of CGM are. So those of us, and probably all of us here in that communication for today, are probably very strong believers in glucose traces, because it really helps the person with diabetes not to only understand what has happened in the past, but also what will happen in the near or maybe not so near future. Because one of the big advancements is that people are really becoming more self-empowered, because they know how to handle the situation. They have no fear of nocturnal hypoglycemia. They can go to bed with more easiness. So I think that really transformed the lives of people living with diabetes. One of the downsides that we still maybe have to face, that many people who are eligible are not equipped, because the doctors are afraid of the sensors, because the doctors do not know how to handle the technology, and they don't want to seem more stupid than their person living with diabetes they take care of. So that's somehow a little bit of a reluctancy to go for it. And in my country, one of the big burdens will be that mainly GPs will take care of people with type 2 diabetes. And I think that's going to be the next big transformation that we have to go through, that we need to train all of those GPs how to handle data from CGM, because it's not only to put a CGM on a person and hope that that's going to fly, but really at least to let them know how to interpret. One of the good examples that I have about bad training was one of the patients with type 2 diabetes came back to me to clinic and said, oh yeah, so I have now that little sensor, and I check every 3 or 4 times a day with that monitor. And it's like, but that's not kind of how it is meant. Actually, it's meant that you really, whenever you take decisions, you look at it and it helps you to guide it. But if that kind of GP tells them, okay, you do a scan 4 times a day, at that time it was still Libre 1, that doesn't make sense, right? So we really need to train the GPs that they then train the people.
True, very true, ma'am. What you're saying is that we keep an open mind, and as doctors as well, learn and continue to learn and continue to adapt to technology, isn't it? So, one last quick question. Your take on human intelligence being replaceable or irreplaceable when machines and algorithms become smarter?
So I think we will be supplemented by it. So I'm not afraid of a machine, because then we have more time to discuss, more time to really look into details. But a machine is probably something good to give you a direction, to give you a hint what could be the issue, and they're not too bad in that. So I think it will help us, but it's not that it will fully replace the human mind.
Totally. Thank you so much for that segment and those answers. So moving on to Dr. Pranjali with the next segment. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kavita. So since we're talking about technology, so I'm going to take you time travel, and we are going to be in 2035, ma'am. And so it's about the future, what we are building. So imagine you are in 2035. What does the diabetic clinic look like in 2035? We know AI is everywhere. So will AI eventually predict a glucose excursion before the patient actually can sees it's coming? So what is your opinion about it?
So I think, as you rightly said, it will be, maybe we are not creative enough to imagine how it's going in that field, but for sure better predictions will be there. Also better understanding of how glucose traces might be influenced by meals, how glucose might be influenced by exercise. So we will for sure have a better understanding of the glucose. But I would see it even in a broader sense, that we will manage to get personalized care based on really the trajectories of the person. Because what we sometimes miss is, for example, a person shows up in your clinic, is maybe 45 years of age, a little bit obese, and the majority of us will think, okay, that's potentially a form of type 2 diabetes. And maybe we do not consider other forms of diabetes. We don't consider type 1 diabetes. Yes. Not in our setting, but in the GP setting. And if AI helps us to ask the correct questions and put in those parameters and direct you into the right direction up front, that will be really amazing. It also helps us to consider all the comorbidities we should check for. So I think it's not that we're going to be replaced, but really supplemented, and to really handle those bigger amounts of data in a good time. Let's put it that way.
Super, ma'am. So, ma'am, do you think by the time, by maybe 20 years down the line or 15 years down the line, could we reach a point where insulin delivery becomes so automated and that, that helps patients' daily burden in dramatically reduced? So, do you think that can be possible?
So I think we're already moving down that line in that direction. So I think, yes, we will get more automatization. Some tasks still need to be done by the person, like sensor changes, like changes of infusion set, understanding how to store the insulin and all of that. So that's still kind of on their hands, but it will for sure become easier. I also think that potentially in the future, it won't be about technology alone, but maybe also really that we find a way to stop type 1 diabetes, at least if we understand it early enough, and potentially halt type 2 diabetes if we again treat enough and with good therapeutics in an early stage. So maybe finally we manage to not have full stage and full-blown type 1 or type 2 diabetes in later stages. So that's maybe my personal dream.
Yes, ma'am. And so, ma'am, what excites you more right now? AI, closed loop systems, or CGMS, or digital therapeutics, or something we haven't even imagined right now?
So I think it's more about finding, maybe it's even more finding the correct technology for the person that suits them and that they are happy to live with. I think maybe for one person, CGM is enough because they don't want to have a pump or they don't want to have an AID, even if it's available. AI support when it comes to meal recognition could be supportive for others. So I think it's not one technology exciting me more than the other, but really like finding the right technology for the person that really helps them is the biggest hassle, and I'm always happy when we are succeeding.
Yes. And as a global leader, having worked across different healthcare systems, what is the biggest barrier to making these innovations accessible beyond high-resource healthcare systems? What are the biggest gaps you see, whether it is only available for the patients who can afford it? If yes, then how can we reduce that gap?
So I think that's a lot about advocacy, of course, to really make the needs become really tangible. Even in my high resource country, I would say, where we spend a lot of money on, in many senses, not really sustainable projects. For healthcare, sometimes we still underspend. And for example, now they always want to have the lowest price for a new technology on the market. Of course, that's not going to work. That's number one. And number two, also to negotiate acceptable prices with industry and also make it more sustainable for people living in not so rich areas of the world. But I think in the end, the gap hopefully will close, and I'm always very hopeful to see when more sensors will come to the market, maybe the prices will come to a reasonable price that also lower income societies will be able to afford it. So I think that's kind of the difficult steps that we need to take. And fortunately, in my country, we don't have like any restrictions who is eligible for medication. So it does not matter if you're rich or poor. So it's like the social healthcare, like in the UK, will take care of everyone. And fortunately, we also don't have like a barrier when it comes to selecting who is eligible. But what I personally see is that sometimes when we have people with migration background who can't even understand numbers or read text, that is really something, even in high income societies, that is still a challenge. So if they migrate as adults, have not had any formal education, can't read numbers, then that's really a challenge to deal with technology.
Super. So, ma'am, in your country, CGMS and all, it is included in the insurance, or how is the insurance pays for it? Because in India, it is not included in insurance. That is the biggest concern we are facing here.
Mm-hmm. So interestingly, when it comes kind of to the comparison of medication versus technology, for medication, we usually have like a very low amount of copay that we need to do if we cannot afford it otherwise. So that's €7 per prescription. And for sensors, for example, if you're eligible to receive a sensor or an AID system, all the components will be reimbursed. So that means mostly type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes on basal and bolus therapy. Sometimes also premixed insulins are eligible, and type 3 diabetes forms with basal bolus therapy. So it's mostly depending on the insulin delivery type. And also type 2 diabetes and type 3 diabetes, if they are on intensified insulin therapy, are eligible for AID systems, and they are fully covered.
Oh,
Unfortunately, we only have two types. So we have two manufacturers that are reimbursed, no patch pump that is reimbursed as an AID, but just as a patch pump itself. But otherwise, I think we are quite in a lucky situation still.
amazing, ma'am. So thank you so much for your inputs. Over to you, Dr. Ritu, for your next segment.
Thank you so much, Pranjali. And it is such truly inspiration to hear you when you're talking about, how from childhood to your experiences, the environmental grooming, how it comes in. While I'm talking to you, I was already getting messages from the audience that they're so inspired to hear all this from you. So thank you so much for sharing that personal journey of yours. And, my segment is going to talk about the Professor Julia Medal, who is globally an icon. And I know I use a lot of adjectives, but that's what we all really feel about you. So this is Woman Behind the Global Leader. We see you as a professor, of course, at the Department of Diabetes Technology. We see you as a researcher, having done so much of work around all of these technologies, aiding diabetes. We also see you as an international speaker. We see you as a leader. We see the publications, the awards, the global platforms as well. But with every achievement that we see, there is an invisible story as well of choices, of compromises, of expectations, setbacks, and the people who make this journey possible. So we want to understand, this segment is going to talk about that invisible journey behind the very visible success story of Professor Julia. So my first question to you is, women in academic medicine often carry an invisible workload, right? Mentoring, teaching, emotional labor, responsibilities at the family end, and still being expected to perform at the highest level. So how have you navigated that invisible layer of leadership?
Yeah, so that's a very, very difficult and very important question, actually, that you're posing. So fortunately, we officially don't have like any boundaries, let's put it that way, in my country. But if you still look at the leaders and at the professors and at the department heads, it's, I would guess, still 80% in the hands of male individuals. So we are seeing slightly a shift towards the female sector, but it's not as high, especially if you consider that there are more female students in medicine than male students, but still kind of the top ranks are kind of taken by our male counterparts. It's also amongst women, and I also need to take myself by the nose, and my best example is always, and I'm traveling a lot, but when I'm entering an airplane, and then you hear some person speaking from the intercom system, and then if it's a female person, I still, and I really try not to be biased, believe that's the purser or flight attendant speaking to us. And I rarely believe that that's initially the pilot speaking to us. And of course we have female pilots. And so that's some invisible bias that also is still inside me, even if I know it should not be, right? And that happens also to me because I like a little bit the understatement in a way, right? So when I'm doing the ward rounds, I'm like not wearing like anything fancy, but really go around in scrubs. So I had to change now for the lecture here, but I'm really going around in scrubs. And then the patients, there's, if they don't know me, there's like, and when do we see the doctor? And it's like, and the nurses say, oh, you've met the doctor already. So that's quite funny. Like, it's just, they don't listen to you in that way, even if you kind of tell your name. But I'm not the person walking around saying, I'm Dr. Julia. I'm just saying, hi, Julia Mother, I'm going to take care of you, blah, blah, blah. Right. And it's very funny to hear. And interestingly, last time, an older woman, she immediately understood, okay, so that's the doctor.
Waiting for connection.
And then when I came in the second day, then she said, oh, I have to apologize. Okay. I did not know your title correctly. So I should have said professor. It's like, I mean, I didn't kind of really want to stress that so much, but like she was really into it and understand kind of to address correctly, but it's still very, very rare in that sense. So kind of we still have some underlying bias to really understand who is the leader, who is not the leader. And yeah, so for example, also last time I had a surgical colleague over to together assess a diabetic wound. And he was like treating me like the junior doctor. And in the end, he was like, oh, that was the professor counterpart on that end. But I'm like not stressing it. It was just like always funny to kind of see then the reactions on their faces. So that's kind of my little game that I play with them. Let's put it that way.
Wonderful. And I guess, I can relate with when you just said that, when you also have that bias, because we've been brought up in that way, right? We've always seen so much of male dominance around us, be it the societies, be it the shops, be it the leadership positions, that we are so obviously, bound to feel it that way. And it will take some time for us and the society to change in that regard as well. And that's exactly why, we also try to foresee into and encourage women to come ahead and take up these leadership positions, because at times we feel that it is just in their head that we can't take it. There is too much to do, but they're all doing so much. They're already accomplishing so much, doing the multitasking. And I and all my female friends, they also feel that women are blessed with emotional intelligence. They are blessed with multitasking. It is just that we need to take that step ahead, bold step ahead, and get going. Now, linking back to your story, Professor Julia, where you mentioned about, having a brush through with misogyny early in life and during studies. Next question is again a little similar, but maybe into your later life of your career. Have you ever walked into a room where you were the only woman, or maybe one of the very few? Though, of course, I see you a lot of times on this stage as well. You're the only international leader sitting there along with other male colleagues. But yes, this question is pertinent here, which says that where you feel that you have to still establish your credibility before you could simply contribute your ideas.
Yeah, so it's still existing, as you said. Funnily enough, again, I noticed that, for example, in airport lounges quite a lot. So that's even more funny. So because I have the highest status with kind of that European airline. And then usually for traveling, I like to, again, travel comfy and not like styled up. Because like if I go now for a 12-hour flight, so why should I dress up? And then say, oh, yeah, here is the counter for blah, blah, blah. And then they see the ticket and you see again the face fall like, oh, that's like our highest tier passenger. So we should kind of treat her with more respect. And that's quite funny. And nowadays, I think the majority of my lounge assistants in Vienna know me already. And like if one of the kind of the senior assistants is sitting there and then she hears my name, she's, oh yeah, no, she's mine. And then she kind of guides me to her. So that's quite a funny thing to observe. And usually it's maybe me and one or two other women compared to 20 men sitting there. So it's really still a minority, that's for sure. Also in terms of kind of professional life, you observe that a lot. So when I and I'm chairing the ESD Training and Education Committee.
Yes.
And then I'm negotiating with lots of different national societies about speakers. And usually they come up with that they want to have as a speaker. And then I'm pushing back. So it's always like the bargain on a bazaar that I say, okay, it's fine. You get one of your seniors, you get one of the more juniors. And then we at least want to establish some equity between balance between men and women on the stage, and also consider minorities there. So that's always a hard bargain. Interestingly, it's a bit more in North Africa and also in Southeast Asia, where I get the pushback that they say, oh no, we want Professor so-and-so, Professor so-and-so and so-and-so. I say, okay, you can have one of the three, but I want to have at least one female speaker and one of ethnic minority background, or one junior. And so otherwise we are not signing from ESD. And I'm really happy that also my management in ESD is very happy with these decisions, that we are really not accepting all the suggestions that are coming up, because we have so many bright young minds that we should also put on the stage, because all the speakers, of course, have always the chance to be invited, but kind of with that, we want to also promote the more junior people, junior careers.
Absolutely. I think I totally love that. And I'm sure that, as an organization, ESD obviously is looked upon by one or many across the globe. And therefore, it is of umpteen importance that when they are being seen, I mean, your actions is what is perceived as ESD's actions. So it is so great that you're able to bring this balance. And I'm just trying to bring myself back. Our generation is truly, Professor Julia, such that we've also seen that time or that crossover where we saw the gender bias versus the gender equality being brought in, where they started talking of gender neutrality. They started saying that, okay, yes, on the table, there needs to be females as well, whether it's about a society in your residential area or whether it is a society at your workplace. So I guess definitely, yes, there is a lot promising future. Of course, comes down to the fact that, women also need to explore and put in that extra effort and claim their positions, whichever they're getting. And great work about getting the young talents as well. So since you do so much work, I mean, whether it is the CGMs, the AIDs, your research, which you just mentioned, working still with your professor, who's about to retire in 2 years. It's but obvious that we all get exhausted, Professor Julia. So has there been ever a point where you felt that just because you're pursuing excellence, somewhere you're missing out on something, either in personal life or health or something like that? And did you ever feel that burnout that, okay, I think this is enough, I need to take a setback, or just take a pause?
So fortunately, my health is still good. So that's maybe one thing where I'm quite happy at. But what I for sure can say that because of a lot of commitments, I missed out on important dates back home, like let's say coming late for birthday parties, coming late for other activities. And for example, and my mom is often my travel companion, I have to say. So I take her, for example, to some spa area in my country. But then I had an invitation to China and I was like, Pa, should I take this one? Or I kind of messed up those dates. And then she said, well, I'm a self-sustained woman. You go, I'll stay in the spa and you go. And that's what I actually did. But for sure, like I did not feel good about that, right? So I out of that spa, drove to Vienna, took a flight to Shanghai, flew back, gave the lecture in between. And she actually enjoyed herself and had like 3 great days. But still, like I, of course, missed out on a great time together.
Right.
So yeah, of course, it comes at some sacrifice. Fortunately, not too bad yet, but yeah, you never know what happens in the future.
True, absolutely. I think when you're balancing this, but obviously we are juggling, where one or the other ball is going to be falling off. But yeah, it's important that you keep your sanity at the top of it. So I guess we'll be seeing your mother soon as well, sometime in India. I'm sure she'll enjoy India as well. Look ahead to host
Yeah,
her.
so she has come with me already twice to India, and she really loved it.
Oh,
So she
lovely.
for sure. So like now she has some, like that's maybe the current struggle that we are in. So she has some health issues at the moment. So let's see how that sorts out for her. So that's what kept me busy in private life just the last month or so. But yes, so I hope that she will join me again soon on those travels.
I mean, a lot of prayers for her good health, and we look ahead to see her whenever she's here. So do let us know. So my next question, again, weaving you into the fact where I started, I'm going back to square one, that we spoke about the professor, we spoke about the scientist, and we've been looking at the leader right here. I and everyone of us across the table want to know, where is the fun-loving, mischievous Julia in all of this? Does she really get a seat at the table? Do you really get time to let your hair down? Though I've seen you at Kerala for a bit, but yeah, that's for the larger audience.
Yeah. So what I definitely try to do is nowadays not to get stressed too much, right? So to kind of add
Wonderful.
some fun time also to my travels. So I was just now
Nice.
coming back from Melbourne, and I had one amazing day that I took myself out from the program and went for an ocean road drive and went to see koalas and all of that. So
Very
usually I really
nice.
try to take a little bit time out of that. And otherwise, similar, like I used to work quite long hours now in the clinic. And I know you guys in India are really, really amazing. I know like how many hours you work. I know like when I reach out to any of you, the answer comes immediately. So I think we in Europe are quite lazy in that comparison. So I would not want to say that I'm working that hard, I have to say, but still I try to limit it now a little bit to the office hours and stop maybe by 4 o'clock, go home, enjoy time with the family, and then add 2 hours back at home. Before I was like working until 6 o'clock or even 6:30, and I really try to get that family time at that time now, which is actually nice. Otherwise, of course, I also like to enjoy life. So I like good food. So some of you know that I'm always very happy to taste new Indian dishes. I like a good taste of different types of wine. I like to visit new cities. So I really get my good share out of that as well.
Absolutely. We were privileged to have, shared meal and wine with you at Kerala, but amazing. Look ahead to furthermore. So, with that, of course, over to the next segment. So, Dr. Lotika, over to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Julia.
So really, it's been so nice to hear about your story, Julia. It is so we've got a lot of audience questions also. This has started becoming very popular with us. So after more than 190 publications and decades of research, what questions about diabetes still keep you awake at night?
So if there is going to be a cure within the next 5 years. So I think that's the question that really is still in my mind, because like I can remember when I started off, it was like in 5 years, we're going to have fully closed loop AID systems available. And it took us actually 15 more years, or actually 20 more years. So like my next dream would be if we could be faster in some areas of research. And that would be really the cure for type 1 and also type 2 diabetes in a way that we do not see all those difficult tasks that we have to impose on our people.
Yeah. That's really very nice. So in many parts of the world, CGM and insulin pumps are still out of reach to most people. Do you think an open source AID would probably make automated insulin delivery more affordable, or does it come with its own challenges?
So I think it depends a little bit on the cost of the components, because in fact, like in my country, it would not be cheaper to go for an open source AID system, because also the components that you need to purchase are more or less at the same cost. They come, of course, again with a different hassle that you need to be smart enough to program it. I'm not a big fan that someone else programs it, except if it's a kid, for another person, because the person should really understand what they are actually doing there. But yes, of course, it's an option if AID is not available. And if you have a pump and if you have a sensor available, then absolutely go for it. It might not be always easier, but a lot of people, of course, get better results because it's really more personalized and it really adjusted to the individual needs. So I think it has pros and cons. In my country, I don't think it's a big cost issue. I cannot speak for India because I don't know your cost structure, but in a system where you don't have AID reimbursed, it might be an option. For us, it's mostly if you want to have a patch pump AID system, because that's the only one that's not reimbursed. So people use a patch pump, use the sensor, and then have to develop their own AID, but simply because that type of pump is not yet, or that type of AID is not reimbursed, the pump it is.
Okay. So yeah, that's actually, technology, and hope that, as many people can use it to benefit from that, and that will be good. You spend your days predicting glucose trends, and imagine AI is offering you a prediction of your own life with one glimpse into the future. Would you press view prediction, or would you say keep me surprised?
So I think if it's about the glucose only or my diabetes career, yes, I would love to see what comes next. For my personal life, I think I'm happy about surprises and would not want to know the full picture already now. So I think life is really good if it has some surprises for you.
Yeah, that's true. That is so well answered. Now we move on to the next segment, which is a little rapid fire, which we call the pulse of life. So the gears change a bit. We expect an answer in one word or one sentence. It's like a rapid fire, quick this thing. So are we ready to start?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Shoot away.
So CGM or insulin pump, what would you pick?
CGM gives you more information and you can achieve same results with pump or pen currently, if it's without AID.
AI is exciting or slightly scary?
Both.
Okay.
Like it's exciting when it comes to really give you information, seek help, and so on. Scary when you see kind of the breaches that they have, that they start to run on their own. So that's the scary part.
Okay. So research lab or clinic, where would you spend countless hours?
For sure, clinic. So I'm not a research lab person, I have to admit. Never worked with animals in that sense. I just like animals too much. I don't want to work with cells. So that's not where my heart lies at.
Okay. So one diabetes.
Lutika is frozen. I think she'll just be back.
One diabetes technology that you cannot live without.
For the moment, I think it's CGM.
CGM, okay. If your life was an AGP, what would be the current time in range?
So I think for the last week, maybe 50%. So not doing 100% great, but slightly going to recover again.
What is your favorite way to switch off after a long day?
So I really like to walk back home, at least part of the route, not the whole route, because otherwise I would be walking 1.5 hours, but like half an hour I take out of that track and then walk to get my mind really back to normal gears.
That's nice. So mountains, beach or city, what would be your ideal vacation escape?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I like the combination of all. So I'm not like I every year go to the mountain in Austria at the lakeside, but still I love the beaches. I love the city tours. I like the combination of it all. I would not be able to pick.
Okay. So who is the one woman scientist who inspires you?
So one of I think my biggest role model here is for sure Chantal Mathieu, because she's also the woman who really helped me to develop my career, who supported me within ESD, who is really a great mentor in that setting. And she's a very strong woman as well.
Okay. So if you could borrow one feature from another country's diabetes healthcare system and bring it to Austria, what would you take?
So I think I would go for the variety of technologies available. So really, in that sense, a lot of other European countries are doing better than us. So we have 5 AIDs in Germany, we have 5 AIDs in Italy, in France. So only Austria is very slow on that. So really the selection of different AID types.
Okay. So now complete the sentence. The future of diabetes will be?
Very bright and shiny.
Oh, wow. So this is
I think
so nice.
We're looking very, very strong times ahead. I think it's going to be awesome in the field also of lipid research, diabetes technology, new formulations of insulins. I think it's really great times ahead.
Yeah, it's looking very bright. I mean, very bright and shiny, because when you see the things which are just beyond the horizon, and when we reach the horizon, probably it'll really be exciting. So it's a nice thing to look forward to. So that was really very sharp and answered well. Now I hand over to Dr. Ruqaiya for the closing.
Thank you, Professor Julia. It's been so mesmerizing hearing you right from your journey to, what you have vision for the future also has been. It's, it's amazing that, the strength is not about having all the answers. It's about being curious. It's about, speaking up, and it's about continuing to grow. And also, how you spoke about the biases, which we think that, okay, maybe the countries there don't have that much of bias, but you pointed that out very well, that even if medical students, they are much more in terms of women, by the time you get to the position of power, there are men sitting on the table there. Also, I really loved your attitude in terms of being very inclusive. You understand the importance that, in mentoring is equally important, when you are at that position, and making sure that everyone has a place in the room. So that's absolutely lovely. And how you try to balance everything, so that's really nice. After 4 o'clock, it's like a cool down time. You walk back home, you take your time to unwind and come to the gear of just from Professor Julia puts her robes down and she's just the mother and the wife and she's back home. So thank you so much, Dr. Julia, for spending your time with us. And so each one of us would like to say what they learned, or what really inspired them from today's talk. Over to you, Dr. Kavita.
So thanks, Dr. Rukia. Ma'am, it has been amazing and truly inspiring learning from you this afternoon. And what I have personally learned is you have a vision of CGM for everyone, and irrespective of the background of the person, irrespective of where or which country they belong to. And I simply love that about what you have discussed and what you have shared with us today. And also the fact that, like how Dr. Rukia mentioned, that you would love to inspire older, younger, both together on the same platform and not create any discrimination between their expertise or what we need to learn and look forward to. So thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. I'd hand over Dr. Pranjali for her learning.
Yeah, so what I could feel, even, your passion and focus to bring down the diabetes care to your community and even globally. So even that 1%, we can achieve that. We can actually create awareness and we can work towards prevention of diabetes in our community. So that is amazing, which I've learned from you, ma'am. Over to you, Dr. Ritu.
So I think, of course, there's a lot to learn. And whenever I meet Professor Julia, I feel so, I would say, rejuvenated because, one, I love technology myself. And I'm a very big CGM fan. So all of these girls also, they keep asking me, "Arey, why are you wearing a CGM all the time?" And they get really concerned about me. But I guess it's just about the way technology really intrigues me. So trust me, everything you do, Professor Julia, it's so exciting and inspiring to people like us viewing you remotely. But what I like today and what is my takeaway, because I'm completely a contrast person to as what you are in terms of being dressed up, but I think I love your humility. A lot of times we make changes in ourselves because because of the way people perceive us or judge us, because yes, we are all judged, and we also do judge others. But I love the fact that you are very comfortable in your skin. It doesn't matter who is thinking what or who's going to say what, but you know what you want. That's your comfort zone. That's the best way you function, and you stick to that. But you ensure that when people get the message, they adapt to how they should be treating you. That's truly a very truly indicative measure of a successful and a strong woman. And I would urge all the audience listening to us, take that point with them. Thank you so much, Professor Julia.
Lotika?
So I like your vision that you said, working towards stopping type 1 diabetes and holding type 2 diabetes. That's your personal dream. And more power to you to realize this dream. We are all cheering you alongside and hoping that this comes true. But it's really been such a phenomenal time listening to you. And your sharing has been so nice. And looking forward to meeting you soon.
Any closing thoughts from your side, Professor?
Yeah, it was a really inspiring discussion, and you really also dug into some, let's say, pain points. So I think that was really good to really discuss and also maybe reflect a bit on yourself, because that's sometimes something where you don't find the time yourself if you really are in busy life. So thanks from my side to that. And maybe to Dr. Lotika's point, also I think it's really a joint journey that we do. And really also a big thanks and big shout out to the Indian diabetes community and research community. It's always such a very engaged crowd that you have around you. And so I think it's a global kind of endeavor that we are taking here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Julia. And before we close it, we would like to have our signature vibe where we join our fingers, make a W, and on the count of 3, we say be the vibe. Okay? So 1, 2, and 3. Be the vibe.
The vibe.
The vibe. Thank you.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Namaste,
Thank you so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you so
It
much.
was
Thank you
lovely
so
interaction.
much.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you so much for your time,
evenings.
Professor Julia. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Meeting ended.
Signesh, can